Senator Hickenlooper.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you all for your time, your service. The United States is remaining a global leader in innovation, including AI. I think that's a goal that is broadly bipartisan. As a former governor in Colorado, I recognize that states are rightfully the laboratories of democracy. The President's recent executive order on AI directs the FCC to consider withholding funds to states that have AI laws that could be in conflict with stated goals. Obviously, I think the FCC does have a role in how AI is involved in managing communication networks or blocking robocalls. I think it's questionable at best whether the FCC can regulate how AI models are used or developed. So let me start with Commissioner Gomez. Does the FCC have explicit jurisdiction under the Communications Act to preempt state AI laws? Why or why not?
The Communications Act does not grant explicit authority to the FCC to preempt AI laws. I'm dubious of our authority simply that to be able to preempt AI laws simply because telecommunications carriers use AI in their networks. I think that what we would need in order for the FCC to have preemption authority is for there to be a comprehensive federal framework of AI regulation that grants that authority to the FCC.
Exactly. Chairman Carr, do you state or perceive AI laws that have been enacted in states like Texas or Utah? Do these raise concerns for you?
Thank you for the question, Senator. I agree with you that I think we want the United States to continue to be the global leader when it comes to AI. In terms of the FCC, there's an executive order that asks us to initiate a proceeding to determine whether or not to adopt federal reporting and disclosure standards for AI models and whether that would preempt conflicting. And we'll start that proceeding and we'll take comment on all sides of the issue.
Well, would that mean that the FCC could withhold universal service fund funds from states that are, these are the funds that are meant to help low-income consumers and rural hospitals, schools with their connectivity? Could those funds be interrupted as a consequence of this?
Well, the issue I've heard raised there is with BEAD funds, which are going to be administered by Commerce. I have not heard that with respect to FCC USF funds at this point.
Okay. And this year we've seen a wave of tariffs on various imports in the United States. And while trade negotiations may continue to reduce tariffs, that doesn't necessarily mean that the economic uncertainty that they create doesn't continue to impact manufacturers, including those who manufacture electronics and communications equipment. So, Chairman Carr, is the FCC in the process, or have they evaluated whether escalating tariffs on information and communications technology hardware has either lengthened timelines to build modern communication networks or raised operating costs for providers or consumers in rural areas?
Thanks, Senator. In terms of hardwares, BLS CPI data shows that prices for smartphones themselves are down 7%, are down over 7% year over year, and so we're not seeing a negative impact in that sector at this point.
So I was thinking more of building out the networks, the towers and the other communications equipment.
I think if we'd see it there, we potentially would have seen it in all forms of equipment. That's the data set that I've seen. But look, generally, we are trying to find ways to drive down the prices for these services.
Good. Glad to hear that. And then the last question for you, Chairman Carr. In 2021, the Marshall Fire really devastated Boulder, Colorado, forced countless number of families to evacuate their homes. The Marshall Fire and numerous other disasters across the country has really shown a bright light on the key role that the federal government and first responders play in distributing key information during these types of emergencies. Oftentimes, that information saves lives. A lot of this includes, or should include, has included, the National Weather Service and the FCC. The Marshall Fire spurred action at the FCC, which we appreciate, to improve the location accuracy for how wireless emergency alerts, WEAs, are delivered to Americans. And I think that action is welcomed. More work needs to be done. But just to make sure our communities receive timely information during disasters, what message would you share, Chairman Carr, with Americans on the FCC's work to improve these wireless emergency alerts?
Thank you, Senator. This is important, and we are pushing hard to always increase location accuracy. And one related issue to this actually has to do with GPS, and this is an issue where Chairman Cruz has been leading for a long time. A lot of the location data, some of it's cell site, but some of it is GPS, and it's a great system, but it's vulnerable. And so we've been taking actions at the FCC to look up, standing up either complementary or alternatives or secondary ways of getting that precision navigation and timing information that today is displayed by GPS. And so we're going to look at potentially next steps in trying to invigorate that work.
I appreciate that. Thanks to all three of you again for your service. I yield back to the chair.